welcome back to another episode of the Slappin Kpop podcast. I am Kayla, and today I am here with Sammi.
Hello.
And in today's episode, don't really have much of like a theme other than it's just like we're talking about BTS and our thoughts on BTS and their career and their future, and that's really it.
It's the long-awaited BTS episode. Long-awaited by whom? I don't know.
Somebody out there, I guess.
Somebody definitely wants to hear about our opinions on BTS.
We had been talking about doing an episode on BTS for a really, really long time, but we didn't really know when the right time for that would be. But now, since they've had to come back and just announce their hiatus, we thought this would probably be
hiatus, not hiatus. Hiatus focusing on solo projects and definitely going into the military.
Yes.
At some point.
Like, God, definitely has to go into the
having
military.
To do it either this year or getting the exemption. Mm-hmm. One or the other. You have to.
Yes.
But, so I think we're just gonna start at the beginning and I think we're just gonna start talking about our opinions on BTS as a whole. Our thoughts on their meteoric rise to fame. And then, I guess, talking about the recent events. Specifically, we have a lot of thoughts on the 2022 Festa that they did.
Yes.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Things happen there.
We want to talk about our thoughts, where we see everything going. And it's gonna be, I don't know, kind of a... We have mixed emotions. I think BTS themselves have mixed emotions. I think everyone has just a lot of emotions, and I'm hoping that we can, work through some of that.
Yes.
This is like a therapy session for us.
Exactly.
We both, 2015 for both of us we got into K-pop?
I think I was early 2016, probably.
And I was, mid-20, 15-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing with all of that is that, when we got into K-pop, it was BTS was, popular. Starting to get more popular. We weren't here for when BTS was 2013 Nugu. But
I think back then BTS was kind of in the 80s spot of popularity where they were very popular internationally and people thought they were very underrated and could kind of predict that they were gonna hit bigger success pretty soon.
Yeah, when I got into K-pop, it was roughly the I Need You era.
I got into K-pop in the middle of Run and Fire.
Yeah, I was in the I Need You era going into Dope. So it was about the same time, and it was that thing of BTS is starting to get popular. They're starting to be people are getting excited for it, but you always had the criticism of people being well, yeah, they're popular internationally, but it's not gonna hit, it's not gonna stick.
Mm-hmm.
They're a flash in the pan. And then in 2016, I saw them at KCON. It was one of the only reasons I went to KCON. And it was Fire era, and legitimately I cried, I think. I was so excited. I was I was young. I was a K-pop fan. They were so good, and they were the reason I became a K-pop fan. I saw War of Hormone once, and was oh, who are they, and how do I know everything? How do I know everything about them?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that from there, BTS sort of, I don't know about you, but for me, they sort of became one of the reasons I got into K-pop.
I didn't get into BTS until probably 3-4 months after I got into K-pop. Uh-huh. And I think the first song by them I actually heard was Dope because it was on it was on a YouTubers React or one of those things by the Fine Brothers, one of those React videos. And I really liked it. So I went to look up that song and then I looked into them a little bit and I casually listened to a bunch of just random songs from War of Hormone and Boy With Love and I Need You I think was out at that point. So just a lot of random stuff, and then I didn't really go full into them until a couple months later, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it was really, I watched the dance practice video for I Need You, and something about that told me I should stand them. Yeah. Something about that video specifically told me that I was I need to learn more.
And then it's because we got into what I will say is everyone has their opinions on what prime BTS is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't fully understand what that means a lot of times, because it's like, what do you mean by that? Everyone has their own opinions. Everyone says BTS dropped off at different times. But I think we got into BTS at, like, really good eras, because that was roughly what, like, Most Beautiful Moment in Life.
That was the Most Beautiful Moment in Life and Wings. So that's,
and then Wings, and then into, like, You Never Walk Alone, and, like, the Love Yourself era. All of that is just, like, so good.
Mm-hmm.
I still think Wings is one of my favorite K-pop albums.
Yeah, I think Wings
ever.
is just one of, like, the best albums, period, that I have ever listened
Absolutely.
to. I think it's fantastic.
It's so well put together. Absolutely phenomenal. And then they started kind of doing a lot more.
Once DNA hit, there was a clear shift in the music. Not as much necessarily from, like, a B-side perspective, because I think the B-sides have stayed more so consistent with their own sound, like, their entire career, but you could definitely tell there was a hard shift once they released DNA to, like, what type of sound they were doing for, like, title tracks.
And you can always tell that was triggered by that first Billboard Music Award.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that, like, I'm talking, like, before DNA, like, that first Billboard Music Award where they were nominated, they weren't performing, and people were just having, like, a mental breakdown about it? Because I remember that era.
Yes, I remember it entirely because I have, like, a very vivid memory of it, because it was, like, 3 days or something before I, like, went out to, like, a summer internship. So I was happy that it was airing before I, like, had no access to television anymore, so...
I will say, I remembered that, like, whole time of people, like, voting and, like, all of that.
Oh, I definitely
really
voted, like, every day for that.
Same. I was so happy for them. But it sort of became, and that's sort of when ARMY, like, got into the mainstream cultural mindset of, like, oh, who are they, and why do they have this pull on people? And it was just an insane time to see that happen. And you can tell that that's sort of where it all started to, like, they got attention, and the attention was weirdly, and I hate to say it, but much like everything with BTS, and much like everything with boy band, anything liked by young women, it's never, oh, they're good artists, why do people like them so much, they must be good. It's, oh, they have rabid fangirls, which is, I hate that topic, because what's the difference between a fangirl and a Sky Sports fan?
Yeah, oh my god, don't even get me started on that.
Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that aspect.
Don't need to go down that rabbit hole today.
No, but I want to point it out that, like, anything that is liked by teen girls is automatically somehow worse. But it's never that they were good artists and that people like their music. It was, oh, they have this popularity.
And
it was so, people were very confused as to why BTS had a popularity, and I'm like, listen to it. Do you not understand the appeal there?
And for years, and this was, like, happening since they started getting, like, more Western recognition. It was only until about, like, a couple years ago where they just stopped getting asked the dumbest questions over and over again in Western interviews, where it'd always be like, oh, who's your favorite, like, American artist? Or, like, what's your favorite American food? Or what do you like to do when you come to America? And absolutely none of the questions that would ever get directed towards them would be about their music and their style and, like, what they wanted to do, or anything that actually mattered. It was always, like, very annoying stuff.
And I remember that, like, they used to just, any time that there would be, like, an actual good interview on them, everybody would be so surprised and absolutely, like, love and rewatch that one, because it so rarely happened. And it also started the time when I feel like BTS have always had wonderful personalities. I've loved seeing them on shows for years, especially, like, early BTS. They were fun and goofy. In a lot of those American interviews, they don't talk. I don't feel like they enjoyed doing it. They weren't having a great...
And for a decent amount of time, RM was the only person who could speak English, like, fluently and could understand and, like, actually answer a lot of the interview questions.
But even at that point, I felt like, even if he could translate what they were saying, I don't think a lot of them wanted to answer those questions.
Because they're dumb questions. They got asked them, like, every single time the exact same questions, to the point where it's like, you're not even trying anymore, and they always get treated so differently than they would, like, any other artist, just because
Yeah.
they were, like, really one of the first, like, other than Psy, like, Korean artists to blow up in the Western media, so they didn't know how to handle it, really. And, like, when Psy got really big with Gangnam Style, it's not like Psy had, like, a bunch of fangirls. It just kind of, like, had a weird thing about it that made, like, pop culture, but he didn't have, like, a whole fandom surrounding him when that happened.
And that's the problem with, not the problem with Psy, but the sad thing about Psy is Psy was kind of, and this is nothing on Psy, nothing on his music. His music's great, but to the Western market, he was a joke. It was, look at this funny, crazy song.
Yeah, he was
dance.
like a wacky, middle-aged man, who had, like, fun, wacky music videos that had, like, fun dances and everything.
Exactly.
And so for a while, that's how K-pop was viewed in the West entirely, because that was the only thing a lot of people had to go off based of it.
What people would show you after that is you'd see things like Orange Caramel, which fits into that mindset, or something even like a Big Bang or a 21, where like
Big Bang music videos are like bizarre, yeah.
Yeah, and like while they aren't the goofy songs, you can sort of fall into that. A lot of second gen used to, second and a bit of third gen used to fall into that wacky sphere, and then you can't. There is nothing that they could take from BTS to make fun of, and they didn't want to take them seriously, so they just didn't know what to do with them.
Yep.
And that's the depressing part, and I think that from there, it's also, like, a management issue of, like, well, what do we do now?
And
like,
it's not like, because back when they were from Big Kid Entertainment and it was only Big Kid Entertainment, it's not like BTS was coming from, like, SM or JYP or YG who had some type of background promoting in, like, a more Western market. Big Kid literally had nothing before BTS, and all of a sudden, they had one of the most successful groups ever, and was also very popular internationally, and so they were just like, well, now that they have that popularity, it's like, where do we go from here with that?
And we're just, like, sort of flying by the seat of their pants, because I think even, we see how SM and JYP and YG responded to the big hit, the BTS explosion. They also had no idea what to do.
No.
They tried to replicate it in every way, and not failed miserably, but failed.
SM Entertainment has been trying so hard and failing so bad at it, I think.
I mean, we think they failed, but I think many others would disagree with us. I mean,
okay, so if you just take SuperM, and
Fair.
There's absolutely no comparison to the amount of popularity that SuperM has compared to BTS. And SuperM had to be created, like, gathering together a bunch of different fandoms into one.
Yeah.
And yeah, they got, like, interviews on, like, shows and everything, but that's a thing a lot of K-pop groups get now because of BTS. I mean,
P1 Harmony is getting those too, and
yeah.
I honestly wouldn't compare them.
to Super.
Everyone is getting, everyone is getting, because, like, it's sort of one of those things where, like, BTS did all those shows. They were on, like, Good Morning America. They were on Ellen. They were on the Billboard shows. They did this, and it's sort of like they were, like, kept going.
Mm-hmm.
And it always ended up, because I remember even back when I first got into BTS, everybody was like, because that was still back when it was a big EXO BTS fandom war.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
That was also a time.
That was also a time. And I remember when people were like, well, BTS doesn't sell as well as EXO. BTS will never sell 1 million copies. Next album, they sell 1 million copies.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was the markers of, like, it used to be this very big thing, and I don't think K-pop groups do this anymore because everyone's used to just getting, like, 10 million views immediately.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Remember when getting, like, 1 million in 24 hours was super exciting?
Yes.
I remember that era so vividly like, people being like, well, what if we get, like, 10 million in 24 hours? Like, that would be insane.
Just, like, not
and I'm
even,
like, you get 10 million in an hour.
About that now, yeah.
Yeah, no, now you're like, oh, 100 million in 24 hours. God,
and it used to be a big deal if a music video hit over 100 million views, and that happens to, like, so many groups now.
I know. It just happened to, like, it just keeps happening. BTS is, like, what, 15 music videos or something like that with 100 million views? It's insane.
Yep.
But it was just such a smaller thing of, like, people being so excited for, like, little milestones that then snowballed into big milestones that now mean absolutely nothing.
Yep. To go
no
back
one
to the
cares.
fact of the other companies trying to sort of replicate
Yes.
the Western success that BTS
If you haven't
did.
noticed already, this is going to be a really rambly,
Yes.
tangenty episode, but...
I think the thing that all of those companies are missing is the fact that, I know in more recent BTS years it hasn't been so much the case, but the fact that BTS was so involved in their music and they were writing
yeah.
so many songs that were personal to them and also could relate to a lot of a lot of teenagers and people their age, and not even just teenagers, but like just young adults as a general
we were both
concept.
in college when we first got into BTS, and
Oh, yeah.
I felt like those songs extremely
Oh my
resonated
God.
with me. I was like, I have a distinct memory. So when I first got into BTS, I was in nursing school. I was a freshman in college. My freshman year of college is genuinely one of the worst times of my life. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember driving home with, like, I just had BTS playing in my car and weeping, just bawling my eyes out with BTS playing over my car radio, and I was just crying my eyes out. And it's those kind of like little special memories, because that kind of stuff stays with you, and those are still some of my favorite songs.
I remember vividly. I was working. This is my freshman year of college. I was the administrative assistant for the nursing school, and I remember the music video for Young Forever came out, and I remember watching that and literally started crying in the middle of my job watching that music video.
I remember listening to Tomorrow in my car when I was like weeping profusely. Like I pulled over because like I couldn't drive anymore, and I was just like weeping, just like through like an emotional time, and it was just, I don't know, it's that kind of stuff that like really resonates.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I think a lot of them didn't realize, that BTS grew extremely organically. You cannot expect a K-pop group. And I think that's the problem with a lot of groups now, is that they sort of, like, have, like, they're trying to get that instant success, like, that instant, like, everybody loves them. BTS grew over time.
It took them, like, 4 years before they really hit it big,
Because, like, I mean, No More Dream and everything was okay, but, like, I Need You started it. I Need You got them, like, 1 or 2 wins. And then it grew slowly from there to, like, Dope, then to, like, your Run, your Wings era, all of that. It took time. It wasn't, like, an instant thing. To then, like, even DNA is nowhere near what they would reach with things like Dynamite and Butter and all of that.
Right. And even, like, On.
Yeah,
too.
On.
Mm-hmm.
It's...
And it's like, I think there is such a clear difference when they're releasing music that they're writing, as opposed to other groups who are just like releasing songs that are written by like 10 different songwriters. And
but also
even if there is, even if
by them, but I think also just with different intents in mind, like, I think BTS just sort of started writing things that they liked.
Yeah, and even if there is a message behind a song, but it's not really written by the members and they don't really have any personal connection to it outside of it's a song they've been given, like, that's the thing that I think a lot of fans can tell the difference on.
Yeah.
And that I think the big companies don't necessarily recognize as well as they should.
I think the big companies are just trying to... Like, even if the exact same parameters that made BTS famous, the same exact thing happens, it's not guaranteed a success again.
No.
Like, even if you get... Like, the thing I can compare it to, and we always drag on them, but, like, there's nothing wrong with Stray Kids. Mm-hmm. Stray Kids is a very similar, at least structurally, to BTS.
Oh, yeah.
You have your, like, rappers writing music, you have all of that. And they're hitting. But not at BTS, because there's also luck involved. There's also a massive amount of luck. You can look at BTS and be like, if a lot of people bring this up, and especially a lot of people at the time when I first got into K-pop, when BTS was starting to climb was the same time as the BAP lawsuit. If, for example, like, a group like BAP was still around, like, there's so much luck involved. Like, you have to hit at the exact right time with the exact right song, or else you're not gonna succeed in that way.
Because if BAP wasn't caught up in a lawsuit and was just waiting around for a whole bunch of years doing nothing because there's nothing they can do about it, like, they could have turned into
been the BTS.
A really big, like, competitor to BTS during that era. And CS Entertainment was bigger than Big Hit at that time, so they had more pull in the industry, too.
Or, for example, they would have been making similar music, so the fans would have been, like, split in two, and neither of them would have... And neither of them would be the BTS. Like, there's so much luck involved. There's so much, like, perfect timing. And the thing is, I think we can start talking about, like, sort of the members about a little bit, in that it's, the relationship BTS as people have to their success is so interesting. And I think we saw a lot of that in the Festa, which was the fact of, like, I think BTS never imagined getting where they are now, because there is a difference between having massive dreams and being the people that, like, break the dream and set, like, the next generation of dreams.
Yeah. Like, Suga literally wrote in so many of his songs about how they were gonna win all of these Western music awards, and here they are years later, and they're
winning
doing
them.
it. Yeah.
But the weird thing is, like, if you go back to super early BTS, they're not name-dropping Grammys. They're name-dropping, like, I want, like, nice jewelry and cool cars, which they got. And then when they started getting that, they're like, well, what if the next thing is this? And it the dream slowly upped, and now they realized, oh shit, we're beyond my wildest expectations. But it's not even like, you know how they say, shoot for the stars, at least you'll end up on the moon? Like, they shot for the stars and ended up on the sun. Like, they're beyond their, like, what is, like, going for your dream and, like, getting more? Like, it's wild, and I think that they have mixed feelings about it, as anybody would. I remember in what Mama was it? The one where they were, like, crying when they were winning Artist of the Year? Yeah, it's in the 2018 Mama Awards, that's where Jin was like, we thought about disbanding this year. And I remember that real vividly. And that was 2018. We're in 2022 right now. Like, so much has happened since then. I feel like they've been realistic about it. Of, like, obviously, if you're thinking about disbanding in 2018 when Idol comes out, can you imagine what they're thinking after, like, Dynamite?
They also said in the Festa that, Map of the Soul 7 was supposed to be their last song before they were going to take a hiatus. But then COVID happened, and they were kind of, like, didn't know what to do at that point.
Yeah.
And so then they did, because they said Dynamite, Butter, Push Into Dance, and Life Goes On were kind of, like, very unplanned, like, events that they didn't, like, necessarily know that were gonna happen.
Yeah. I think COVID really sort of messed everything up for everybody in life generally. Because if you listen to 7, it does kind of feel like a goodbye. Not a goodbye in the...
It does feel like it's an end to, like, an era of something,
it feels like an end to something. And then, okay, you end there, you go on, you do the promotion for Map of the Soul 7, then you go on your hiatus, and by now we would have had BTS sort of back.
We're also at the point where they've delayed the Jin enlistment, like, several years in a row at this point, as much as they possibly can.
Where it's like... But to the point where it's almost like, I don't even know if it's them wanting to, because I feel like if
I think it's the Korean government.
Yeah, I think the Korean government's like, no, stay.
Because I remember reading an article about how BTS alone has given South Korea, like, however many, like, I think $1 billion of revenue.
To their economy. Like, it's insane. And I can believe it fully. Because it's just one of those where it's like, you get Map of the Soul 7, which feels like a goodbye. You get this weird extension, and now we got Proof. And it does really feel like 7 feels like a fully fledged album. Like, I know a lot of people have problems with 7. I really liked it. I thought that album. I think it's really, really good. I like a lot of the songs on it are good. Their solos are very good on it. I think it's some of their best solos, personally. And then you get something like We Are Bulletproof the Eternal. You get a lot in there. And then that feels like a strong goodbye. They take a break. They're allowed to recharge. Because on that album you have a song like Black Swan, which I think is one of the most personal recent BTS songs. Yeah. Recent in the way that it was, like, made 3 years ago at this point. Right.
But they haven't had a lot of songs the last couple of years anyway.
Since. Yeah. Because it's like, well... I love doing this, but what if I don't? What happens when I can't do it, or when I stop enjoying doing it? And I'm like...
And everything that they're saying in Black Swan, everything they're saying in that song very much echoes the stuff they said in the recent Festa, too. So it's like, they've been feeling like that for several years now about their career and their music direction, and, like, having no idea what to do with their lives or their careers anymore.
And I can only imagine, like, because it's not even, like, Big Hit pressure to, like, because I think Big Hit fully knows that they are going to have to, like, let them have this hiatus. And I think they're fully okay with that, of just, like, they've been preparing this for years.
I truly don't think that...
But I can't imagine, like, the outside...
I don't think that Big Hit or Hype, like, has actually forced a lot of anything onto BTS.
No. Because I feel like if Hype wanted to force something, we wouldn't have had, like, 4 singles, and, like, B's, like, barely a mini album.
Yeah.
B's, like, a mini album more than anything.
And it's like, I think their change in music direction isn't so much, like, that was Big Hit or Hype, whatever.
No.
Technicality, I don't think that was them forcing it on them. I think that was also them being confused about their music and thinking, well, we're so popular now, and specifically in this Western market, that
let's try something.
Maybe we have to change our music to sort of appease this sort of new fan base that isn't like a typical K-pop fan base at this point now. Because they were maybe afraid that, like, if we go back to our original music, what if we lose, like, all of everything that we've built now?
And I think that it's also the fact of, like, I can imagine them wanting to try out a different style and being like, well, in a weird way, you both have everything to lose and also nothing to lose, because it's like, well, we already are this popular.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try it and see what happens. And I just think that they seem like they have very mixed feelings about the music that they put out. I know a lot of K-pop fans have mixed feelings about the music they put out. I mean, I liked it for the most part.
Yeah, I like it. I don't think it's some of their best, but I didn't hate any of it. But you can definitely tell how different it is. And I think sort of now they've been more open about it, about sort of not enjoying it as much as the other stuff they've been making, which is a lot more personal, because if you look back on the last year where we just got really 3 English songs in a row, plus B. B did seem like a pretty personal album. I think they had more input on that.
The thing with B is I feel like B was more of a response to this extremely traumatic thing we as a society went through. Yep. More so, like, because I'm just like, this is sort of... I know a lot of people are like, yeah, no, life goes on, and I'm like, yeah, it has to. Like, I fully understand that sentiment after COVID. Like, you can't linger.
But yeah, but if you just look at, like, the English single trio, there is just, like, a lot of... That was just a catchy pop song that they put out.
Yeah.
For not even really any specific reason other than to just have, like, a
they
fun
weren't
song.
even in an album. I know that there is, like, a Butter album, which has Butter and Permission to Dance
I
don't think
I have a vinyl of Dynamite and a cassette tape of Life Goes On, so...
I mean, I have a Butter and Dynamite cassette tape and a Life Goes On cassette tape.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's sort of where we are in terms of the BTS... I mean, let's be honest, the weirdest BTS merch I own is the fact that I do have an illustrated lyric book of Save Me.
Oh, you did buy that, I remember.
That is just an official piece of merch I own.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, no, looking at it, I think it's weird because I feel like this fame has allowed... I think they see it as the blessing and the curse that it is, where it's like... It did allow them a lot of freedom to just kind of do whatever they want and, like, collaborate with whoever they want. They had their choice of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They could essentially work with anyone, and you can see the list of people they've worked with, like... I mean, for good or for bad...
Just all of the random people who have featured on their songs over the last year, like, randomly Sia,
randomly Nicki Minaj,
Steve Aoki, Juice WRLD,
Designer.
Yep.
A lot of people. You look at the BTS, not the BTS,
Coldplay.
The BTS World OST. Coldplay, that, I like that song.
I do too.
That song is really good. But, you look at they had their own mobile dating sim.
Oh,
in BTS
yeah,
world.
they did.
I don't think that was a dating. I don't think it's a dating sim, but
it's something.
I owned that OST in physical form. You just get... BTS has just been able to do so much stuff. And then you have the fact of, like, it did start a company, but I do think that they do view it as quite isolating, too.
Yeah.
I think that there's now a reason why one of the first things that's been announced since the quote-unquote hiatus has been that V's gonna do that, like, little, Scope
Oh, that
spinoff with all his
Soup
friends.
or whatever.
Soup
Yeah.
spinoff with his friends. I think they do view it as quite isolating. Like, they don't have that many.
I think
Can't
all
imagine
of them had to give up like their
so much
in their individual careers essentially to keep BTS like as a whole sort of successful because earlier like V did acting a little bit
in what the
like
problem
and that was
he
a while
started
ago
acting,
too.
That's the other thing, is that he started acting right when I believe it was like around Run. The specifics of my brain are like,
I don't
time
remember.
is an illusion
Exactly,
but it's like roughly Run era, so they're starting to get popular. He was like a minor side character, very nice, very sweet. Hwadong is a pretty good show, and he was a highlight of that show. But the thing is, post that, BTS gets so busy, they're doing so much, they're like, what, they don't really have time for that.
The only sort of individual activities they've got is like when they're like the rap line is releasing mixtapes or featuring randomly somewhere, or they're doing like a random OST for a drama or something. They really were not allowed to have individual careers where as a group as old as they are and as popular as they are now, it's very like just common for individual careers to happen for all the members.
Because the other thing is that they're doing full stadium tours, they're doing so much music, they're doing so much of everything that I don't think they probably don't have the time, because by this point a group of this age would be doing around one comeback a year.
Yeah.
And I think BTS has kind of come down to doing that, but that was really post-COVID.
Right.
And COVID was just like threw everything in the air, and I think that they had to really think about what they wanted to do generally in their lives.
And it's like, if you read a bunch of, especially very recent BTS interviews, it's like, you just get stuff where they're just like, yeah, I'm playing video games 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
And like things along those lines. Because also, when they're as popular as they are now, it is like almost impossible for them to go out and just do things like a regular person would do. Like, they kind of have to sit home by themselves and figure out what to do with their lives because they just, like, can't be in public anymore.
That's the other thing of just, like, and the thing is, it's, so, we're recording this now. A recent thing that really happened was the disastrous Liam Payne One Direction interview.
Oh, yeah.
And from that, I think that K-pop groups are very different than Western boy bands. I think the BTS are still very good friends. We're never gonna get a tell-all.
No.
Because I don't think there's anything to tell. That's the other thing, is that by this point, I feel like with everything, with Dispatch, I have yet to see a singular, like, hot take that BTS is anything except for the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, I feel like if they weren't, the Western media would take every opportunity to tell us.
Oh, yeah.
Western, Korean, netizens, anybody, I feel like
anyone who has ever had a negative interaction with BTS would have come forward with it at this point.
At least one of those, like, hot blind, like those, what do they call those? But whatever those, like, sort quote-unquote anonymous stories where it's like you can tell who it is, but they're not gonna name names.
Right.
I feel like you could really, like, anybody that has a negative interaction with BTS would tell you.
And, like, the big difference
like the
from
nicest people.
BTS and One Direction, I think, is BTS were training together since, like, they were children, teenagers.
They also lived together.
Yeah, when you're forced to live together and essentially undergo, like, a pretty intensive training program, especially at a company like Big Hit that was nothing at the time, you really, I think, grow close together. One Direction was made on The Voice, and every single one of them came onto that show as a soloist, and so I think they're dealing with ego problems from the get-go with that.
Yeah. The other thing with it is that BTS, we've seen the first BTS dorm. You can still see the first BTS dorm. The first BTS dorm is, I genuinely believe, a fire hazard because all 7 of them were in one room.
Yeah.
I think it's a fire hazard, and I'm also not positive that Trainee A video that came out like 3 weeks ago is not that same dorm.
TXT was also in like a very similar sized dorm.
I think Big Hit, like,
Big
really
Hit
is just like,
they
you
were
gotta
like, look,
get
we have
close.
They're like, look, we have money, but you need to be humbled first, so you don't end up like a shithead person that we have to deal with in the future.
I mean, they yet to have a shithead.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, otherwise speaking, I think But to the point where I was going, that Liam Payne interview did, for as shitty as it was with a tell-all, dear God, keep your mouth shut.
With, like, freaking, like, Logan Paul, too.
With Logan Paul, of all people. Another shithead.
Yep.
But what a lot of things he said are the fact of, like, when you are super popular, it's 1, overwhelming, 2, it stresses you out, and 3, there becomes a safety issue, not only for yourself, but for the fans that are, like, constantly surrounding you. So the easiest thing to do and the cheapest thing to do is lock you in a hotel room. And I genuinely think that for their own safety and the safety of others, like, BTS probably spent a lot of time alone in their dorm, apartment, hotel, all of that. And it's gotta be, like, I don't know. It's gotta be a time, because now they don't even live in a dorm anymore. Yeah. They all have their own apartments. I think they're all still very good friends. You get it from, like, all the behind the scenes stuff.
I have no doubt that they're not friends, or that there is any animosity between any of them. Like,
yes. I mean, obviously, within a group, you're gonna have different relationships with different people. But, dear God, they have this genuine... And they also have gone through a once-in-a-lifetime experiences with all these people. But it's just one of those things where, like, in a weird way, as a BTS fan, I have so many mixed emotions, because it does almost seem like it's made them kind of sad. But I can't wish for them to be less famous. Like, it's weird, because I don't know how to feel about it.
It is kind of a weird trade-off.
Like, I don't know if I want, like, because that's the other thing with them, is that they're like, I'm not ungrateful for all these opportunities and this fame and money and, like, to be nominated for a Grammy. I don't think that they're upset about all of that, but it does come with the trade-offs that, like, I think you do have a right to be sad about.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing with me, just, like, they kind of look a little sad about all those things, but I can't wish for me not to have bought every one of their albums. Like, I don't... It's weird, like...
That is just, like, a trade-off that comes with fame generally, because you do lose a lot of your own freedom once you're so in the public eye and so successful and so well-known. You lose a lot of your own privacy and a lot of, like, your just, like, own personal freedom, but at the cost of that, you do get, like, tremendous amounts of, like, money and fame and everything like that. So, I don't think it's a thing that any of them wish didn't happen, but they're realizing that it's okay to be kind of sad about it, because they are sad, and they don't, I don't think they should feel bad for, like, sort of being upset with how their music direction has changed and how it's turned out. Like, they're, like, it's, like, a valid, like, emotion to have, to, like, to be, like, it's, like, a conflicting thing of trying to not sound ungrateful for your success, but also being okay with the fact that, like, I'm, like, very sad and alone, and it's kind of depressing that we can't really do much now, because we've reached all of these sort of goals we've had in our career, and we don't know what to do anymore.
Because that's the other thing, is just, like, I feel like a lot of times, especially in that early time, where they're like, well, we want to win the Billboard, we want to win the Grammy, it almost seemed facetious, especially Yoongi would say, like, what's the next? Oh, a Grammy, and he would kind of laugh, and it's like,
right.
I feel like it's both semi-serious and also, like, kind of joking of, like, I'm never gonna get a Grammy, what are you talking about? And this year they were just nominated, and maybe, look, I have opinions on why they didn't win Grammys. There's a lot of
things.
There's a lot of things. I feel like, this Academy of white old men is not gonna give the Korean boy band of Pretty Boys, extremely talented, but I don't think they're gonna win. They're not gonna give it to them.
There is just obvious racism.
There's absolutely no reason for BTS to not have a Grammy.
Yep.
There's just no reason.
Yeah, it's hard with them.
It is.
Having to break into specifically the American market, really.
And it's
also, I've also...
just, like, inadvertently, through no fault of our own, through not even trying, because I don't think they ever, like... focused on the American market and were, like, trying to do it. They just were like, oh shit, we've fallen into this.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
I also kind of hate that getting awards and being recognized in the Western market is everything that has to be seen as, like, a sign of success. Like, if you're not popular there, like, you're unsuccessful. Like, I hate that as well. Because I do think there is also an aspect of racism involved in that, too. So
there is. And I do think that, like, I don't know, now that... there's always a chance that they will win a Grammy, but I don't think they need one. And I also feel like at this point, they're like, we've already been nominated so many times. I think they're also fully cognizant. I don't think BTS is blind. I don't think they're stupid. I think that they're fully cognizant of the racism that they've probably also experienced in America.
Like, they probably experience it every single time they go to America and are at these award shows. Like, yeah, all of these artists, I'm sure they're happy to see them and, like, interact with them. Like, I don't think they've probably had a lot of bad interactions with artists.
I also don't think it's probably the artists.
No,
I think
it's just the industry as a whole.
Production, the industry. I think that, and honestly, maybe an artist, like, you're gonna at least hear, there's not a doubt in my mind that they've experienced, like, just both, like, bunch of just, like, subtle racism and, like, microaggressions that are just, like, that are not, like, I don't think they're probably targeted or anything or malicious, but they definitely happen. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that there's much fewer instances of maybe more blatant racism. I mean, every couple weeks you see an article written that's, like, kind of racist. Yep. Or, like, you'll see people make off-color comments that I'm like, that's not how you need to be talking about a group of people. Like, they're human beings. They're not. Oh, yeah. Like, it's so odd sometimes how they get treated, and it's, I don't know. I think that it's interesting because, in a weird way, like, groups like TXT and Hypen, BTS's little brother, that's the other thing is I feel like it's extremely isolating, is that I also feel like they can't make that many new friends because they're so big. Any younger K-pop group is just so awkward. Like, you've seen TXT interact with BTS. Yeah. It's like, they're enamored, and there's nothing, like, there's obviously the level of respect that they're older than them, that they're like, direct, like, company group. Seniors, yeah. Yes. There's all that. And they're, like, also such a high standard to live up to, yeah. And it's like, these are from our company and how successful they are, and they're like, we need to be that now. It's, but like, the weird stressful. Thing is, I feel like both TXT and Hypen, I think Big Hit has not been pushing them, at least not in the same way that, like, an SM or a JYP is trying to push into the Western market. They're not trying to do that with TXT and Hype, to a lesser extent, because I think I don't see it. It doesn't seem obvious that that's the direction they're doing. Yeah. I think that they're sort of, like, growing the fan base more naturally. They're doing that, but they're not pushing them like a bunch of other companies are with their groups of, like, you must be popular in America. Go. I think it's because they've seen what it's done to BTS. TXT is doing more Western stuff now, but TXT is also, like, a couple of years old now, so it, like, makes sense for that more so now. I don't know, I think, weirdly, I can't really blame Big Hit in a way, because it's like, I don't know what I would do if I was Big Hit, to be honest. There is no roadmap. Yeah. Now there is Big Hit is sort of now there is, but yeah, there is, but it's because they had to make it. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing with BTS. Is just like BTS sort of is here. No one no one knows what the trajectory of getting a Grammy is. Now you kind of have an idea. BTS did it. Yep. Will anyone else do it? Probably not for a while. I don't think there's anyone, even, like, the next most popular boy groups right now are not even anywhere close to where BTS is at. So. And I don't think any of the groups who are very popular right now can make the climb to where they are. So if we do get another BTS situation, I think it would have to be from, like, a new group. It's gonna be Trainee A, Kayla. They're just gonna do it again. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them yet. Oh, God. I don't know how I feel about them yet. I don't know how I feel about them either. We'll figure it out. But I think this will be good for them. I think BTS needs a break. I believe that they're not coming back. I think they're coming back. They're definitely coming back. It might be a while, but they will. It'll be a while, but I think especially a full 7 member, definitely a while. Oh, God, that'll be a while. That's gonna be at least, like, probably 6 years, but it depends on how we. It depends on how we space this shit out. I think they're gonna stagger military just because it gives them a longer break and also gives them specifically more time to put into solo activities that way. I can see them doing more of a, like, 2-2-3 situation. Well, they're gonna have to just because of how old they are anyway, so they're gonna have to go in, like, at the same year anyway. For as much as people are talking about Jin, Suga is not that much younger. Yeah. And, like, Jimin and V are both the same age, so, like, they're gonna have to go the same year. Yeah, and Jungkook's only like 2 years
Jungkook's
younger.
like
I
one,
think that
yeah,
there's
2 years younger, yeah. So they're
there's
gonna
always-
go
they're
at a
gonna s-
similar time, but I think it's
mean-
gonna stagger as like they're gonna go in when they're like 30 and at the age limit.
You
almost.
think it's gonna be at the end, or you think they're gonna go up a little?
I
I
feel like
think that'll.
I feel like they do want to do solo stuff.
Solo
so
stuff
the
for a
ones who
while?
don't have to go right now, I think, are probably gonna do solo
Oh yeah,
stuff
absolutely.
and then just go whenever it's time. The younger three might go early, but I do think that all the rest of them that are not Jin who have to go immediately are gonna put more effort into.
They're all
solo
gonna
stuff.
go immediately.
Yeah.
So we've gone through our complicated emotions.
Mhm.
I still have complicated feelings. How I have so it's such a weird situation. I don't think that there's ever been a K-pop group that I have had more complicated emotions about.
Oh yeah, because
They're
they've gone through a complicated career path. Like no one else
Exactly.
has gone through that before. The only person who has a little bit is Psy. And Psy has
that's
echoed
even
very similar feelings to BTS, where he was like, I got so caught up in trying to be in the Western market and wanting to get that attention that I changed a lot about myself and my music to do that, and I ended up unhappy with it.
Exactly.
And so it's wild that both of those groups, like both BTS and Psy, who have gone through like similar Western blow-ups, have echoed the exact same opinions about the Western market, which it's like, to me, it's like, if it makes people so unhappy, then like why are we pushing that as like the standard for success?
Because it's the biggest music market. And it's so interesting that both of the people that have achieved this success were not trying to.
No, not
These
at all.
are people that this was, like, they're not attempting to do it. They were not chasing it. This was sort of an opportunity that just happened to them. And it made them it is like a genie curse.
I know, honestly.
It's like you get all, but you have like no freedom, no.
But
nothing.
then it's like once you have it, it's like, well, I can't just waste it now that the opportunity is here. Like you have to take advantage of it once you are sort of like you have that and are given that opportunity.
Exactly. So I went to the Speak Yourself tour. I went to the fucking like football stadium tour that they did like 2019?
Probably 2019, yeah.
I believe time again flat surface. 2018, I'm wrong.
Okay.
Wait, no, 2019. Yes. Great. Everything confuses because they did two tours.
COVID fucked up time.
COVID fucked up time for me.
Yeah.
COVID has completely fucked up everything in my life because I don't know when anything happened anymore.
I did stuff at the beginning of 2020 that I don't believe is in 2020 because I associate all of 2020 with COVID. So it's like,
yeah,
wild.
Because I remember I saw 17 in 2020, and I completely never associated with 2020 because it was like January.
Was a COVID year. Yeah, 2020 is the COVID year.
BTS was 2019. Dear God, time is fucked for me. But in 2019, I remember seeing them in a stadium. It's one of the most terrifying moments of my life because it was a football stadium, so everything was so tall. I couldn't see anything because everything was like big screens. There were so many people, there were like 50,000 people. Oh my God. But you could really tell that like they also it was one of their first dates, I remember. And it was like they looked so happy. But I also compared to seeing them in, like, KCON, like, a couple years earlier, which was interesting, which was, like, one of their first venues. It was, like, their first... They were, like, headlining a KCON, and they looked so happy. They were having so much fun, and they were still having fun in this, but it was just different because it was a different venue, a different staging.
And KCON is, like, you're there for a couple songs, and this is, like, now you're at a stadium tour all for them.
A stadium tour of 50,000 people, and it's also a much smaller venue, because I saw them at Prudential. And it was just wild, man. Like, people were going feral. It was wild. And they seemed to be extremely gracious and grateful for everything that has happened to them. And I think they truly love their fans, but I think a lot of it is that there is so much stress on them. There's so much, like, pressure. There's so much expectations, the weird thing is I don't even know. They just want... It's interesting. I can only imagine what they think about their success.
And I think it's a lot of it is that probably the amount of stress and like pressure and expectations that they had from their fan base are what led to sort of them changing their music style and sort of continuing to release music the way they did, because they, I think, feel so grateful to their fan base that they didn't want to let them down in any way, but that also just put an immense amount of just stress on them and their careers as well.
Yeah. It's such an interesting group to talk about, because I think we've sort of avoided talking too much about BTS on all of our episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, talking about BTS is, like, opening a can of worms of, like...
Well, also, the length, like, the lifetime of this podcast really started after Map of the Soul 7. And so the only things that BTS has done since we've had this podcast has been B and the Dynamite and Life Goes On and Butter and Permission to Dance and now Proof. So that's really only the only chunk of BTS's career we even got to talk about and like on this podcast, and it hasn't been like that eventful really.
Not
to warrant
particularly
talking about
eventful.
any of it. Yeah.
At this recently it's been quite eventful.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is I'm very curious about these new baby K-pop fans that know BTS, that obviously like BTS. I wonder how much BTS they've listened to.
I do. I also think that a weird thing about BTS is they do have, I think, a large portion of their fan base who do not like K-pop and listen to specifically BTS. Which is a wild, which is actually like a wild thing to think about.
Yeah, that like there's non-K-pop fan BTS fans, because if you listen, because I know people that like really like BTS songs.
Yeah,
there's members of my family that like BTS songs.
Yeah,
but like one or two of like Dynamite and Butter and those type of songs.
Right, it's like I hear a couple BTS songs all over the place, but do I think any of those people actually really listen to BTS? Not
Absolutely
really
not.
at all.
I remember vividly, I was once in a Walmart, and this was like before Butter and everything, I vividly remember hearing, I believe it's like On? No, it wasn't On, it was like Not Today. In a Walmart. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I thought I maybe still had my headphones playing something.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why is BTS playing? And I was just like, no, that's the store. What the fuck?
Right.
And, like, now I'll just be shopping, and it's like, oh, yeah, Butter's playing. Cool. That's just the ambient store music now.
Right, exactly.
They're just a part of this. Because I am doing a BTS discography ranking, and I had to list out all their songs. That's, like, the step one. List out all the songs you have to rank. It's 148.
Yeah, if you forget about a lot of the early ones.
You do. You really do. And
I think a lot of maybe newer BTS fans don't want to listen to anything before like Most Beautiful Moment in Life. Because that was also a different period of time for BTS.
To be honest, I would say maybe more of like a Wings, like than the Most Beautiful Moment in Life. I'm thinking maybe a lot of them
maybe not even go that far
like,
back.
Because there are like distinct eras of BTS if you really look at it. Like you have... That's just why I'm very confused when a lot of people say, well, I like early BTS. And I'm like,
but
so
what
you
do
like
you
no
mean?
more
I was like, yeah,
BTS?
you like We Are Bulletproof Part 2 BTS? Like, what do you mean
like
early
no
BTS?
And School and Boy in Love BTS? And they're like, no, I like I Need You. And I'm like,
this is
that
like
is not early BTS.
At this point, that's mid-career BTS.
I like to divide the eras into like you got your school trilogy, you got your
I'd put anything like Danger and earlier in like an era.
Probably to Dark and Wild. Like I'm gonna go with that's era 1.
Yeah.
Era 2 I would say is Most Beautiful Moment in Life Part 1. All the way to probably I would include Wings.
Yeah, I'd put like the You Never Walk Alone because that's the repackaged to Wings. Yeah, up to their second era.
Then you have Love Yourself, Her. Probably 2. I don't know if I would include that with Map of the Soul 7, or probably 2 Map of the Soul 7.
Yeah, and then this like weird end period.
And now you have like the addendum that
the
is
addendum on like
the
English singles plus Life Goes On and the Best Hits album is kind of another section.
Yep. Essentially that. That's where I divide the... We've had now 4 distinct BTS eras. One of those I like to call the COVID addendum.
I forgot Suga had a mixtape in 2020.
Suga did have a mixtape in 2020.
Forget that was in 2020.
COVID has destroyed my ability to process time.
It's awful.
Alright, so now that we've attempted to discuss all of that, I still don't know if that has helped me in any way process my feelings.
Probably not. Not really.
I think that I've just let out more feelings.
We just let out the feelings. I don't know what to do with that.
I don't think anything will ever, like... I just want them to be happy. That's all I want. Genuinely. I just want them to... Because now I feel like they're conflicted, I'm conflicted.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I can't wish for you to be less successful. I just want you to be happy.
Yeah.
And I do think that they're, like, we haven't even talked about the fact that they also had to fucking design line characters at one point in their career.
They did do that. They also have those other little mini versions of Tiny Tan, yeah. They also have those.
They also have those horrific Barbie dolls.
I hate those so much.
I saw them at a Barnes & Noble once, and they were horrifying.
Hate that. That's probably my least favorite merchandise that they have.
The actual Barbie dolls.
The Barbie dolls. The good thing is that I think there was a generally, like, overwhelmingly positive response to them taking a hiatus and wanting to focus on their solo careers and just, like, kind of regroup as a whole.
Oh, no, Big Hit lost, like, $1 billion of stock price.
I guess they did, but I think, like, I don't know, fandom-wise, I feel like...
Fandom-wise, I feel like everyone is just extremely happy.
Yeah, I think a lot of the fandom just wants them to be happy, so if that means they have to take a hiatus and focus on individual activities, like, most people are okay with that. And I feel like if you're not okay with that, then you're not really a fan anyway. So you can leave.
Well, that's the other thing, is I feel like this will also give a chance for BTS to just, like... Are they gonna come back and be as, like, the BTS of before? Probably not.
Probably not,
like, time passes, people grow out of it. But I think that they will then age to at least a super junior level, where, like, you have your fan base and they can do this forever.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
All of them are going to be extremely successful.
I don't doubt that their fan base will shrink enough that it means they can't sustain a very successful career.
God,
like,
no.
I can't imagine that would ever happen, yeah.
This is K-pop. Like, the core fans will stay forever. Are they going to lose the people that only listen to BTS?
Probably, but at that point,
but I also don't
think
BTS really minds.
Yeah.
I feel like BTS has distinct eras where they started doing this for themselves. Like, we want to be K-pop stars. Mm-hmm. We're expressing ourselves through our music. Then it sort of evolved into, we have this fan base that we want to connect with. Now, recently, it's been like, well, we have this fan base that we want to entertain.
Yeah.
And I think that eventually, when they come back, I really want to see them do music for themselves again. Not saying that the stuff recently hasn't been stuff that they enjoy, that they're not proud of. But it hasn't been as personal.
Yeah. And I think that's, like, the big thing with that, is that the music they released, it just haven't been able to really connect with it on a personal level, which is fair because it hasn't been that deep or anything like that. Like, a lot of
and I also feel like a lot of stuff from BTS has been, like, based on, like, life experiences and stuff. Well, how many life experiences can you get when you're, like, locked in your hotel room?
This is true.
Doing the same thing every day.
Yeah, that's how you get. That's
felt like
right. Where your life goes on, which sounds kind of sad. Yeah.
Well, I think it's what we needed.
Yeah.
So on a lighter note, what do you think each of them is gonna do?
Jin says he wants to do acting again, which I think
I hope
good.
he does.
V
I think
also.
he's gonna. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for V acting. I think all of the rappers are gonna get
more albums, and now
albums.
They said they're gonna do.
I think they're actually gonna get actual albums.
They did say that they're gonna stop doing mixtapes and do real albums.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Just release an album. Release a rap album. That'd be the only rap album I'd buy.
Yeah. That's false. We both own Bobby's album.
We both do own Bobby's album. I realized that right after I said it. I'm like, we own Bobby's album. That counts as K-pop rap. Fair. Sorry, Bobby. It's Bobby and BTS. Yes,
those are the K-pop rappers we're throwing our support behind.
We're throwing money at.
Yeah.
I can see Jungkook releasing an album.
I think all the rest of them do solo albums. Yeah.
You think I don't see Jin doing a solo album. I
He
think
said he
really
would be
wants that.
last, probably because he has to go into the military, and by the time he gets out and stuff, it'll be a
Definitely.
long time before we get
The
that.
man has to go learn how to be a soldier first.
I can see Jin on variety shows. I feel like he thrives in that environment.
Not to compare, I feel like he gives off, like, Heechul on variety show levels of chaos.
Yes.
Where, like, I think he would be amazing on a variety show.
I think he thrives on variety shows. I can
And
also see RM on variety shows, but, like, different types of variety shows.
But, like, the Genius
but, like,
style
intellectual variety shows, yeah.
I want to see him on the next season of The Genius.
Give me a revival of The Genius and put RM
but
on
with
it,
RM.
please.
Who would he bring as his person?
Oh, like, does he pull a Sungyu and bring Bang PD with him?
I would die, and I feel like it would end a lot better than Sungyu.
It would end better than Sungyu.
I think Bang PD
because
would
I
give
think Bang
better
PD
advice.
would actively listen to him and not just completely ignore
Not
everything.
sabotage him, essentially.
Actively sabotage him. Yeah,
that'd be amazing. I think that this is a good break for them. I'm happy for them. Am I sad I'm not gonna get more BTS music? Yeah. But I feel like, trust me, we're gonna have enough hype to last us till our...
Hype is so big now.
So much hype.
There's so much.
There's so much hype. Like, you got 17 and TXT and Hypen and Lee Seraphim. You got Trainee A. You got whatever the fuck and audition is gonna happen. Whatever the and audition group is going to be called, possibly just and audition,
which I hope it is not.
I hope it is.
I hope that's just the name for the audition.
I would prefer them to be called The Howling more than and audition.
Honestly, fair.
Just call them Howling.
Yep,
it's fine.
We really gotta.
I really hope the Loners Association is not.
I hate that so much.
Don't call. Can that be their first album? Maybe.
Oh,
I'm holding out hope it's their first album.
That'd be so much
bad.
Better. It's bad, but it's better than that being the group name. Because a Loners Association, for some reason, gives me big, like, Extraordinary Heroes vibes, and I don't love that.
I don't like it at all. That also, it feels like just a short sentence.
It does. But I guess is Hype gonna, like, because we have a lot of TXT songs that are full sentences. Are we now the evolution of that? As well, now we gotta name a group of full sentences.
Name that are full sentences?
Yeah.
Maybe. They also have Zico. I forgot Zico's in there. There's so much we're gonna get so much hype. I don't think BTS's memory will ever be. We're
never gonna forget it, ever.
God, no. I mean, to be honest, whenever they want to come back, I'll be here.
Yeah, we'll be here.
I'll be paying attention. We'll both be here, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. I've seen so many people be like, well, that's what One Direction said. And I'm like, shut up.
People don't understand also how K-pop works and how you can debut as a soloist and still be in a K-pop group and how that's a thing people have done since K-pop existed.
The beginning of K-pop. Because that's the thing, is I feel like this is a very common K-pop situation. But now we have all these Western fans being like, well, that's what the Western boys
and
would
we
say.
keep comparing them to One Direction because that's apparently
the same.
One Direction is apparently the closest comparison of a Western boy group we have to BTS for some reason.
I guess in recent years.
Yeah.
But I think that
the Backstreet Boys made a comeback after however many years.
The Backstreet Boys just made a comeback with New Kids on the Block.
Yep.
It took like 20 years, but you know.
But they did it.
It happens. And I do think that, like, a better comparison is a group like Super Junior, or a group like Shinhwa, or a group like that, not a group like...
Not a Western boy group.
Especially not a Western boy group that apparently now has beef.
Yeah, apparently not a Western boy group who hates each other, apparently.
Because that's the other thing, is I think you cannot be in a K-pop group and hate each other. I think that's why people leave, like, so often you'll get a K-pop group where it's, like, one person left if you have, like, personalities that don't mix.
Especially you can't be in you can't do a contract renewal on a K-pop group if you hate each other. That's when you leave, if there's, like, a conflict.
You also I don't think get to the point of debut in a K-pop group. It is so many hours together. It is so much, you're already living together before you debut. Like, it's so much extra work. to get to the point of debut in a K-pop group that I feel like if you are having that much animosity, you can't survive. Mind you, the fact of, like, those massive bullying scandals from K-pop groups have all, like, kind of fizzled.
They all kind of started in trainee days, too. It's, like, not like there was... the conflict always started, like, very early in a group's career whenever the scandals come out, too.
Yeah. Any more thoughts?
I don't think so.
I think
not that I can think of now.
I can't think of anything else that I wanted to, like, extremely touch on.
Right. So that's been the BTS episode.
That has been the BTS episode.
We're gonna wait for them, I guess, is all we can really do.
We'll wait.
Be here.
We'll be here. They're gonna come back.
They will.
It might be sooner than we think.
Yeah.
Knowing how K-pop works, it's all like a hiatus in K-pop is like 6. Like, I don't know if they're talking about like an actual like hiatus, or it's like, yeah, it's a K-pop hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
Like next year we'll get something. I'm like, Jesus, that doesn't count.
Mm-hmm. So we don't know, but either way, we'll still be here around. So
of course.
And yeah, so we're available on all major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave us a review if you like our podcast. That really helps us out. And we also have a YouTube channel where we post all of our episodes along with fun clip videos every once in a while too. We are both going to be ranking BTS's entire discography because it feels like the right time to be doing that. So, hooray.
It's maybe the only time where it's not going to change every like
I know.
15 minutes.
And yeah, with that, we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.